5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
Hello everybody, so here I am in the middle of repairing a yurt, and rather than repairing this yurt to sell or to use on the retreats, I'm actually taking it abroad with me to France. And that's because what I witnessed, as so many millions of us did when we saw those horrific images on newspapers and in the internet of children washed up on the Mediterranean beaches, and it finally penetrated our consciousness that we're in the middle of a world crisis, that millions of people are being displaced from their homes. So I realised that what with the way that large charities work, which is very inefficiently with lots of wastage of money, best thing to do it yourself. So I got tools together, supplements for people to take, all sorts of things that I thought people would need, painkillers. The more research I did, the more widely I started to cast my net in terms of things I started to buy from my own money and encourage other people to donate, which I'm very grateful for the donations which I received from many people. So it was quite a time. It took weeks to get this organised. The thing that made things even harder is buying painkillers. There's actually a limit to the number of packets you can buy. I thought specially designed to cut and get in the way when you want to do it. If humanitarian aid, so I had to go into so many shops to buy enough painkillers. And so the other thing was duvets. I discovered that charity shops are no longer allowed to sell duvets unless they're brand new. How extra difficult for homeless people and people who are wanting to do humanitarian work. I had to go and buy a load of brand new ones, cost a load more money. So I got together a load of kitchen equipment as well, and this is more stuff that was donated and waiting for the day that we set off on our journey to France. I did my research, and my plan was to go to some of the smaller camps, and I thought the tea lights would be very useful for such an occasion when there's very little resources provided. People are going to need light in the evenings. That's the electrical box of all the bits and pieces that I got together in that sense, including Ingla's wonderfully donated phone, which she no longer needed. So it really was a time to do tarot as well, to get more understanding of the appropriate energies to tune into for doing this work. So this is the transformation of the card of virtue, and tuning into those energies I found very helpful indeed to align me with right purpose. So there was a lot of work to do, and it literally took many weeks, gathering the materials, repairing the yurt, getting all the other bits together. An amazingly kind offer was a friend, and he said, you can have my trade account and you can buy loads of building materials which they can make use of as well at trade price. All these amazing offers came in, for which I'm eternally grateful for all you people for doing this. So here is the card, the Wanderer, and that brings us over to the subject of Exodus, because literally as I speak there are millions of people that have been displaced out of their countries because they've been bombed and otherwise attacked, and there's been this huge exodus of people who are migrating across the world and finding themselves on the shores of the English Channel in Western Europe. And what a mess we've got ourselves into as a planet. This is actually what's going on. So my determination, my unbending intent was to be of practical help in this situation. So Neil and I decided we would do it. We would travel to France and deliver aid. When I was a kid watching TV, I never wanted to be a detective or a cowboy or any of these things that I used to watch. And then one day Thunderbirds came on, and that's it, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. The international rescue, be the change that the world needs to see, help people who need the help. And that is my original inspiration, and it's funny it's taken so long for me to actually put it into practice. That's the concept. So this vehicle, this mission, is Thunderbird one. We're going on our very first mission to check out what we're doing, find out what the situation is, make sure we're of use, which is why we're taking a van for the stuff and the yurt. But the main thing is to gather information, report, and then come back in the future much better equipped. And here we are in the tunnel. Hello everyone, we're here in the train and tunnel, and soon arriving in France. Having absolutely no idea what we're going to encounter, so we will see what happens. Cheers. So despite getting up incredibly early, we literally spent half the day driving around the French countryside, trying and failing to find any camps. And then suddenly we got close to the original camp, what people call the jungle, and we saw, as you can see there, policemen standing by the side of the road at very regular intervals. This was our first indication in more than a half a day of driving around that we'd actually found the right place. We'd found any place where refugees were. And then we see the police van, and we're coming up to a coned off exit. Now if only we'd realised that's actually where we were supposed to go, where they're making it look like you can't go there. Actually was the route we should have taken. And if we'd gone off on that exit, we'd have found ourselves well positioned for the camp, but we didn't understand that, so we overshot, which is what we're doing right now. But this did give us our very first view of the camp itself, the Calais camp. So you can see there, and it's a pretty large area of people living there, 6,000. There comes the fence, so from here onwards there's this huge fence to prevent the people in the camp from getting out and getting onto the road. That seems to be a recent development that the authorities felt they needed to do. So what you now see is people receiving aid. There's a van pulled up, there's a human chain of people creating a queuing system. The people receiving their boxes, little cardboard shoe boxes with aid that has been organised by someone elsewhere. So we've literally arrived at the jungle. We hadn't a clue what to do. We met Claire, she's in the van in front with some other people. They're from Cornwall, they're very well organised. They've got a warehouse over on this side of the channel. And so we watched her unloading their goods, and they had a human chain of people to kind of create a corridor for people to queue into, to the back of the van. And everything was in boxes, like shoe boxes. And they were all disposed of very, very quickly. About 10 minutes, the whole van load was disposed out to all the people that instantly formed a queue out of nowhere. And now we're driving out because she's very kindly invited us to take our stuff to her warehouse, which makes sense because having seen the very high level of organisation she's operating in comparison with our utter ignorance, it means our stuff has got a better chance of being properly distributed from her system than just arriving randomly as we were doing. So that's pretty much it. So we're just about a kilometre away from the camp, and everything's back to kind of ordinary life pretty much. One of the things I noticed is an extraordinarily large number of the refugees with bicycles. A lot of people at the camp have their own bicycle. That's very interesting. But yeah, it's like it's all going on just there, and then as soon as you get away, it's just as if nothing is happening. And that proves me wrong. There's a couple of people on bicycles from the camp. So people are able to get out of the camp, but there's a huge amount of police and riot police surveillance on all the bridges and raised areas to observe their movement, it appears. So we're on our way to Claire's warehouse. She can sort out what use our stuff can be made of. Okay folks, so what we've done is we've reversed the van into this huge warehouse, and what we're going to do is we're going to unload our unsorted load, and then the people in here are going to sort it into amounts which are useful to distribute to people, and it'll be taken off to be distributed. So that's actually what's going on now. So I'm just going to leave this camera behind, and I'm going to go and start sorting our load. Something I found really difficult was the contrast of the extremes of life, because there you can see the aid being delivered and being sorted out, and then in the next shot we're in a supermarket, a hypermarket, French hypermarket, and it's a cafe, and we're having some lunch, and somehow there's something about it that's so weird, that there's this incredible drama going on in people's lives, and on the other hand, it's business as usual, people making money, it's just the same as it always has been. That's something that stays with me, that shock contrast. So we've left the warehouse, we're now on our next mission. So Claire is in leading a car, behind that is a vehicle you can see from Cornwall, that is full of tents, and we have the yurt. So the intention is we're going to get the yurt up before it gets dark, so we're on the way back to the camp now. If it's possible, Neil will film. So that's it for now, folks. So we've pulled off the road and are actually driving into the camp, and every time you do this you have to go past CRS checkpoint. CRS are the riot police, state police, so you are aware of them all the time. We're going to go in a completely different route, which would have made our job a lot easier, but the riot police had actually blocked that one off, so we had to spend a long extra way travelling this way. You can see a couple of young people, they're getting onto the van having a little ride, but a couple of other slightly older people did come up very shortly afterwards and tell them to get off. And then you saw those portaloos. So this is one of the first shocks, I think, that we have. Imagine a Glastonbury festival in the mud that is continuous, with nothing like so many facilities. That gives you a flavour of what we're talking about here. So those loads of portaloos, the vast majority of people are living in tents, but you can see there's all sorts of other structures as well. One's made out of wood, that one made out of plastic and wood battening, as this one is, and that's the building material delivered, was nails, the wood and the plastic to make structures like those. The road itself was very muddy and rutted, but considering the incredible amount of traffic, it could have been a lot worse. That's definitely the case. And then on the right hand side there are some rather unusual looking wooden buildings you might have noticed there. So one of the things about this is there's such innovation and creativity in terms of the way that people build, using the very barest minimum of materials. And bearing in mind the vast majority of people are sleeping, an unbelievably large number of people, to a tiny inadequate tent. That's the reality of living here. And what we noticed within a very short amount of time we had available to do our job is how calm the people were. Calm and relatively peaceful. That's not what we expect at all. If anything, I think we had quite a lot of worry about the prevailing human emotion, but there's an acceptance of this is what it is, you get on, and that's how we encounter the people, how we experience them being there. And there's the church. That's a building which I'd seen on the internet in my researches, and that had been built by a group of Christian Syrians who'd fled their country because of everything that's going on. They're being bombed and all the rest of it, and so they wanted to create their own religious ceremonial place, which they done. And I was relieved to see it was still up, because you may not know this, but a few weeks ago a large part of the camp was damaged by a whole succession of fires. Not a fire, but lots and lots of fires. The footage on YouTube is quite horrific when you see it. And there's a little bit which we didn't manage to film, where there's a whole area that was completely barren, and Chousers have gone in there with big dumper trucks full of aggregate, and bulldozers are spreading it all out on the ground to create an area which is free of mud and yuckiness, which is one of the main problems about this site, is the sheer volumes of sticky mud. And then here we see caravans. So this is a particular area that we're in now. We've found our way into the camp, and we discovered that it seems that the people that are organising or managing it there's a lot of English people doing so, and I recognise some of them from Glastonbury Festival, which really is why I made that link. And there's a shop you noticed just then, and they're the tents and other structures. So there's English people that are helping to manage this camp, and the creativity is sometimes really beautiful. So very inspiring to be in this place, and that's really what I want to explain. Now I am very, very quickly putting up the yurt, knowing I have very little time left before it gets pitch black, by which time I'll be able to do nothing whatsoever. So it's a real rush job. So while the yurt erection is going on, that's why I want to make clear to you is a sense of exhilaration and satisfaction that both of us felt being there. As a sense of heightening energy, a sense of doing good works, a sense of being appreciated for what we're doing. These are things which are pure gold and are priceless. And that site where we erected the yurt, that was not easy. This is right on the very edge of the campground, as you can see, because there's green grass beyond us. But there was a lot of rubbish we had to clear away, including human excrement that had to be removed before we could actually start the job. And that's the thing to remember. The people who are living in this camp are people who live in apartment blocks, houses, only a few months ago, a few weeks ago, and here they are living what I would call a low impact lifestyle. Now, for people familiar with Glastonbury Festival, low impact, this is the whole lifestyle. There's people in Britain who choose to live low impact in yurts, caravans, benders, teepees and various other structures. But this is not people who are choosing to do this. Is people who've got no choice, who are completely unprepared for the level of challenge in this lifestyle. And bearing that fact in mind, the degree of calmness was extraordinary. And there was a couple of young men took interest in what we were doing here and asked us various questions about what we were up to. And just to make it clear, this had been organised by some of the English women who manage the relevant areas of the camp. This is a structure which is going to go up so that when families arrive in the middle of the night, which happens constantly, there's a designated area to which they can be housed and sleep before they're allocated some accommodation in the near future. So that's actually the purpose this year it's been put up for. And my feeling as I was sitting and watching this footage is it's not so long ago that we were doing this. You can see it's only the end of November. There's a really clear intention on my part to go again, only this is not something to do with one other person. That was Thunderbird 1. The next stage is Thunderbird 2, and that is going across with a convoy, and the idea would be we would take an encampment. So when I used to set up encampments in Glastonbury Festival, we would take maybe up to 10 different structures, Berber tents, yurts, geodesic domes, and we would create a beautiful space for people to live. Just walking past to the van, Neil noticed this. It's a nightclub, and music, lights, and the most incredible smell of exhaust fumes from the generator. And here we are back in the tunnel, and I've just had a fascinating conversation with some of the people who are in a van who've just been doing the same journey as what we've been doing, and listening to them, and it really helped to clarify my understanding that there's a lot of English people who have responded to the crisis by saying, that's it, we're going to just put our lives on hold, and they're just doing the work, either taking stuff there or actually living out there to receive things. Blessings to Claire, who was a person that tuned us into how it was we're going to be able to do this whole trip in the first place. And as much as when we saw her van drive past and Neil said follow that van, and we spoke to her, she explained about her warehouse. So we went from driving around aimlessly in the countryside not knowing what on earth we were doing to we had a plan. All the donations were dropped off. She then organised us getting into the festival site to do the yurt erection. What then happened is that we stayed the night in Folkestone, and you'd think that would be it, okay, go home, not a bit of it. What we ended up doing is we ended up travelling to Gloucestershire, where I have pretty much all the equipment I've used for my low impact encampments and camps and festivals over the years, and it packed up into the van and it filled it completely up to the ceiling. And you can see the stuff that's been unloaded into different parts of my house. It's taken days to sort all this out, and it just finished last night about midnight. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking at what I've got, seeing what needs to be repaired, what needs to be replaced, what's missing over the years, and I'm making an appeal for donations. So if you'd be kind enough to go to the website and put a donation into the tip jar, you could be paying towards getting us across in the vehicle, or repairing and replacing equipment that has been damaged over the years, so we can take a full low impact encampment out to that camp and really make a much bigger difference than we could do with just one yurt and some donations. And that's the mission of Thunderbird 2. So thank you very much for anyone who wants to get involved in this. Your contributions are going to be very gratefully received, and there'll be films in the future which talk about this. And just to make it really clear, I am looking for people to step forward and say, yes, I'm happy to take on fundraising. Yes, I've got somewhere where equipment can be stored, somewhere where donations can be stored. This really is me saying hello, I really need your help. Thank you very much.